Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our labors, all our joys and woes, all our pleasure, all our melody. Make us each a channel of Thy peace. When in darkness, guide us from above. Where there's sorrow, may we sow Thy joy. Where there's hatred, may we share Thy love.
The voice of God calls us to awaken in Him. How will He find us when He comes?
Awake and ready.
And when He asks us to dedicate our lives even more perfectly, how will He find us?
Awake and ready.
Let's begin our service with a prayer. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters,
great masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints and sages of all religions,
saints and sages of all religions,
friend and guide Swami Kriyananda,
friend and guide Swami Kriyananda,
humbly, joyfully we bow at Thy feet.
humbly and joyfully bow at Thy feet.
O Divine Mother,
O Divine Mother,
open our hearts,
open our
that
hearts,
we may receive Your unconditional love.
that we may receive Your unconditional love.
Open our minds,
Open our
that
minds,
we may receive Your divine wisdom,
that we may receive Your divine wisdom,
and help us to feel Your unconditional joy in our souls.
and help us to feel Your unconditional joy in our souls.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
receive us,
receive us,
take us home,
take us home
in our inner kingdom,
in our inner kingdom,
in You,
in You,
in this lifetime.
in this lifetime.
Om.
Om.
Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated.
truthfulness. Truthfulness is not caustic statements of unpleasant facts and unflattering opinions. Such statements are usually born pride. But truthfulness is the effort always to see the divine truth behind appearances. It is the effort to express always that aspect of truth which may prove the most beneficial. Truthfulness as applied to ourselves means not to hide behind self-flattering justifications, to look honestly at our real motives for doing anything, and not to flinch before unpleasant realities in ourselves. Truthfulness means seeing things as they really are, but then looking more deeply for ways to improve those qualities. Please affirm with me, first in a loud voice, and then gradually, slowly, eventually in silence, with ever more deeper and deeper concentration every time we repeat them. Whatever is, simply is.
Whatever is, simply is.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth.
Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth.
Knowing that at the heart of everything,
Knowing that at the heart of everything,
God's truth is always good.
God's truth is always good.
Whatever is, simply is.
Whatever is, simply is.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth.
Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth.
Knowing that at the heart of everything,
Knowing that at the heart of everything,
God's truth is always good.
God's truth is always good.
Whatever is, simply is.
Whatever is, simply is.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing. Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth. Knowing that at the heart of everything, God's truth is always good. And now silently, with the deepest concentration, whatever is, simply is. I cannot change it for the mere wishing. Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth, knowing that at the heart of everything, God's truth is always good. Please pray with me silently. Heavenly Father, I know I will not fear the truth, for I know that truth comes from Thee. Help me to see behind all appearances Thy smiling, all-compassionate gaze. Heavenly Father, I will not fear the truth, for I know that truth comes from Thee. Help me to see behind all appearances Thy smiling, all-compassionate gaze. Good morning, dear souls.
Good morning.
Padma and I are extremely happy to be with you this morning and to everybody online. It's a very beautiful day in Southern California and there's a lot of joy in this room. So, thank you. I read from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. My name is Arnab. Introduce myself. The inner kingdom. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahamsa Yogananda. Most people imagine that the inner kingdom, as Jesus described it, lacks the fascination that attribute to sense life. The bright lights, the diverse attractions, the joys and the laughter. Little do they realize what a vast universe exists in their own selves. There are many passages in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible that describe aspects of this inner kingdom. In the book of Genesis we read, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." This garden was in no earthly place. It exists even now in the very self of every human being. The legend of Adam and Eve is allegorical. It describes how the first human beings dissipated this spiritual energy, centered in the spine. The spine is the channel through which flows the river of baptism and of spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita tells us the wise speak of an eternal Ashwatthana tree with its roots above and its branches below. The tree of life, spoken of also in Genesis, is the spine. Its roots are above in the brain's energy. Its branches are the outward spreading nervous system. When the sap, which is to say the energy, flows downwards, the consciousness is drawn into delusion. On the other hand, when the energy is drawn upward and in deep meditation, and the consciousness is drawn toward its eternal source, God, and is at last united with Him. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita therefore urges his chief disciple Arjuna to embrace the yoga science, the path of meditation. The yogi, he says, is greater than the ascetic, greater than the followers of the path of wisdom, jnana yoga, or of action, karma yoga. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi. For those who would find the divine truth, Krishna gives this description of the yogi. Steadfast, a lamp burns, sheltered from the wind. Steadfastly meditating, solitary, such is the likeness of the yogi's mind, shut from sense storms and burning bright to heaven. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity, a book of poems and prayers by Padma Ananda. Demand for control of the unruly senses. O Spirit, let me not feed my insatiable sense cravings with further wrong deeds. Teach me to discipline myself, that I think always in terms of my true happiness. If my senses become unruly, teach me to govern my will, not to cooperate with them and their desires, to feed them only wholesome acts. As electricity can either illuminate or destroy a building, so human power can either glorify or devastate a life. Let me learn then to govern wisely the finite forces thou hast entrusted to me, that each of them with this twofold potency be directed only toward the good. Let the greedy flames of all my desires consume their own dross, not by self-indulgence, but by self-offering into the white heat of thy wisdom. Teach me, O Spirit, to cooperate with thy will, to perform every duty harmoniously, and to sing the one little song that thou hast given me to sing, until all my unruly senses learn to join happily in full harmony with thy cosmic plan. Let the rivulets of all my sense cravings be transmuted into the one mighty river of soul craving. And O Spirit, spare not thy rod of discipline, if ever I stray again toward the senses and away from my true path of craving for thee. So friends, our topic today is the inner kingdom. So when I was thinking about this topic, I felt, well, we can maybe think about this in a trifold manner. So first, maybe why do we even talk about the inner kingdom? Maybe a little bit about what is this inner kingdom? Do we really need it? And then if we convince ourselves about it, either we need it or not, how do we achieve it? And then finally, what is the nature of this inner kingdom? What do we gain by entering into this inner kingdom? So, Divine Mother has done a wonderful job in creating this world. And many times, just pause to think. We have these five senses, and we are trying to navigate our world through these five senses. What if we switch them out for some other five senses? Imagine somebody, today we are beginning to know more and more about beings that live beyond this planet. It's just a matter of time. And the Master had predicted he said the universe is teeming with living beings, intelligence. So you can clearly imagine, right, somebody who is very different from a human being, has different set of senses. They will be experiencing a completely different world. Think about it. So this show is not real. It is not real. It's very similar to going to the movies. And we are so engrossed in the movie, and we're crying, and we're laughing, and going along with the show, and it's so difficult. I've tried it. Try it next time you go to the movies. While knowing very well you are watching a movie, it is very difficult to pull oneself out from that movie. And when do we come back to our senses? When the show ends. Such is life. We are in the show, and we are so engrossed in this wonderful show. I mean, why not? Divine Mother herself has created this really good show. And we are navigating with these senses, and we think this is real, this is it. It isn't. So I wanted to share with you in the words of Swami Kriyananda first. He wrote this song, Through Many Lives. So imagine, I'm going to read from his first few lines. Through many lives, I have drunk the cup of laughter. No man could tell the pleasures I have known. The stars in the endless sky, if one could count, would come to a billions. Yet, as vast are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from thee. And then he's saying, through many lives, I have drunk the cup of sorrow. And it goes on. And countless lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes, we have been engrossed in these movies of life. And yes, we have laughed, and we have hurt. In one lifetime, maybe we were rising on the waves of fame, and fame was ours. And then at the end, when that came, perhaps we were asked, "Were you really happy?" And we probably said, "No, something was missing." And maybe the next lifetime, we were a beggar, and we had hardships, and we bled. So many stories. Swami Ananda says, probably we have touched everybody that we see around us at some point or the other, meaning everybody in this world has been in some way touched by us with all these different lifetimes. And probably we have played every single role. Still we are not happy. And that takes me to what Narayan so kindly shared today. So beautiful, the Hound of Heaven. And so Master talks about this poem. This is Hound of Heaven. If you haven't read the share today, please do. His name was Francis Thompson. This was a long time back. But Master, Swami Paramahansa Yogananda, used to quote him a lot. His The Hound of Heaven is basically a picture, imagine. It's quite the opposite of what we usually like to think, that we are going after God and Divine Mother has hidden herself. But it's the opposite. The Divine is running after us, and we are hiding from the Divine. We are hiding in the nooks and crannies of our egos and looking for passion and looking for fame and wealth and lifetimes after lifetimes. But the hound of heaven is not giving up. He's coming after us again and again. He shall not give up. So he who created us yearns for our love, and we shall never be happy until we give it. That's the truth, friends. So we could be engaged in this movie of life, we could be doing many, many things, but if we are evading that one purpose of life, the reason why you and me and everyone else in this world are here is to find that love. Our souls are craving for that love, and nothing else will satisfy us. We are yearning, we are thirsty for that love, but we don't know. Sometimes we don't know where to look for, and lifetimes go by looking for it in wrong, different places. And then over and over and over again, finally I think we come to a point where we are ready. Okay, tell me, where do I find this? I'm not happy. What makes me happy? Like Master's story, what do you want now? At the end of the lifetime when God is coming to us and saying, you're happy? No, I wasn't happy, Divine Mother. So what do you want? And we say, we want you. Because I understand there's nothing else going to make me happy. I want you. And that you, that divine in our life is our inner kingdom. And yes, we cannot. There's nothing else really in this world other than the inner kingdom. Everything else is ashes. Everything else we do is for that one purpose. It might look differently, outwardly differently for each one of us, but essentially we are all basically looking for one thing, and that's a divine love. We have to give that love back. Otherwise we feel empty. And in that process, what does that process look like? Well, again, Divine Mother is fantastic design. You don't have to go anywhere. It is right here. You just have to find it. And as it turns out, as we turn our gaze inwards into this inner kingdom, we discover this infinite universe just waiting to be explored. It's endless because it's infinite. No one has said, Swami Ananda says at some point, no saints, having found God, has ever said, nah, it was not really worth it. No one says that. Because the more we go deep in, the more we get, the more we want. It's like an insatiable desire for God. And it never, ever bores us. It gets us even more and more into it. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The effect of the inner kingdom is that the world around us loses its power on us gradually. So the more we go deep within, the more we feel fulfilled, the more we feel like we can tackle the world, we can help the world. Instead of getting embroiled in it and riding the waves of laughter and tears, we feel we can actually be of some help. The greatest prayer is to God, give Divine Mother, give thyself to me so that I may share thee with all. So the inner kingdom is that first step, learning to receive Divine Mother's grace. And then the next step, the automatic step, because we are made in the image of God. God has shared everything. Sharing is in our DNA, in our soul DNA. So once we begin to feel the divine love in that inner kingdom, we have to share it with everybody, and it gets shared automatically. So then the question is, how do we do this? Well, Master has brought everything we need. He's given us 101 tools, and he said, maybe just use 4. And if you use those 4 really, really well, effectively, you will find God. And he has predicted the time to know God is here. It gives me chills every time I think about that. Think about it. He's prophesizing the time to know God is here. We will all know God. Perhaps in this lifetime. We have to keep thinking about that. And that's the other part of it. So what is preventing us from really going into the inner kingdom? Everything has been, like Arnab had given us in one of his talks, the dice is loaded. The world is the dice, which is loaded against it. And a story actually comes to my mind. I used to listen to this story. This is a Bengali fairy tale. So here is a prince who goes to this foreign land, and he finds that the entire land has been captured by this wicked, dark force, a witch. And she's torturing everybody, including the princess is under her capture. And so he says, let me go, slay the witch. And everyone says, oh, you can't do that, because her soul is not in that body that you see. So where is her soul, he asks. And they say her soul is locked in a little bee, inside a little, this charm box, which is hidden at the bottom of this really deep well. And so he says, I must go there and find that bee. And so he sets on the journey. And that journey is filled with distractions. So there are these demons coming, frightening him, trying to kill him. And then this beautiful maiden comes and entices him. And he's not looking anywhere. His goal is to go to that well. And he does. He finds the bee and slays it and brings the kingdom back. This is the story for us too. We are so distracted, and why not? I mean, I constantly tell Divine Mother with my heart, this is not fair. I can't even keep my mind on you when I'm watching the movie, in the movie hall, much less in the life. It's so difficult. We are constantly distracted by life. But we know what needs to be done. In spite of everything, we have to dig deep. We have to dig deep and constantly set aside. Master has given us basically the prescription. We all have the prescription. Every day do your kriya. Every day keep your meeting with God. And when we do that diligently, we are doing our very best. When we wake up at 3:30 in the morning, when we can't sleep, and when we are doing kriya. When we don't want to leave our bed, but we still do because we are serving. And we want to serve, we want to teach that class, that's early in the morning. We put aside our desires for our own selves. When we go out and accept the inconvenience, we accept the inconvenience consciously because we are helping someone else. When we begin to do these things, just as Master has laid it out for us, devotion, service, meditation. It sounds very simple. It becomes difficult, but we know the way. Just like the prince, we know where that well is. We need to go there. It's just a matter of time. I think last summer, SRW probably thought, I heard this story. It's a beautiful story. No, it was actually Easter. So this is a story of the three wise men journeying from far, far land, and they are going to see Jesus. And so that journey is likened to the journey of the soul. And then the speaker was saying to all of us there in the Temple of Light in Ananda village that, friends, rejoice. We are in Jerusalem. If we want God, we are in Jerusalem already. We are really close. All we have to do is just put one foot in front of the other. Just keep doing it. We are already doing it. We are doing good. And when friends like Michelle, it heartens, because we sometimes feel doubtful. Are we really doing it? And then enlightened soul like him tells us, you're doing good. And Master has ways. I have had other experiences. This is a saint from India. I'll never forget, it was on my birthday. I chanced to meet him. I had never seen him before. He's a very wise man from India. And I was just drawn to him, talking to him. All of a sudden he said, your guru he was speaking in Bengali, Ma, your guru is very happy with you. It's just Master spoke to me through him. And we get I'm sure, I'm speaking for all of you here, we get reassurances. Our guru is not in body, but he sends messages to us saying, you're doing good. Cheering us on, you're doing great. Please go on, you're really close. And I know we all feel that yearning in our hearts. We do, that's why we are here this Sunday morning. And it's close, friends. We have to rejoice. We have to give ourselves hugs. You know, Noom says, hug yourself like this. And I did, and I felt like Divine Mother is hugging me. We need that reassurance, otherwise it gets difficult sometimes. And then we have to spend time with people like all of us here. All of us who yearn to know God, who yearns to serve God, serve their Guru, because it's like, you know, physics says when two waves has the same frequency, they become stronger and become a much bigger wave. But when two waves are not in the same frequency, they don't necessarily create a bigger wave. So we have to watch the company we are keeping. They need to be in frequency with ours. And that's when we feel that resonance happening, when we come together and our soul yearns more satsang. It doesn't always have to be we are meditating. Community, spiritual community, and the strength of that community is very, very valid in our world today. On many levels. I mean, we can just talk another different talk of the importance of spiritual community in today's world. But whatever we are doing, whatever you and I we are doing, sending prayers out every day at the end of our meditation. Like Michelle reminded us, it's very important. Like Deviji had reminded us. We feel like, what is a little prayer from us? No, it's huge. We are adding our little light into the ocean of light, thereby making it more powerful when it's in. Clearly the light and darkness is in hand-to-hand combat right now in our world. So it behooves us to add our light to the light of the battle between the light and the dark. We have to, we must. And then there could be so many other ways that we share our light with the world. But first of all, you know, just like as a person who doesn't know how to swim can't rescue somebody who's drowning, we have to strengthen our own light. And we do that with our sadhana and our service, and then we consciously share that light with the world in whatever form it might take. Such is the inner kingdom. It is the only thing. There's nothing else besides it. It's the only thing that's worth living for, and that's why we have incarnated, to find that inner kingdom. And I'll just close with this visualization I had, you know. It's like walking on a tightrope. It is. It's very difficult. And forgetfulness is a very common thing. Despair, thinking I'm not doing the right thing, being really hard on ourselves. All of these are the very difficult pitfalls. But we have to remember, just like walking that tightrope, we have to remember that we have, for those of us who have Guru, we have him in our lives. He's that hand that's balancing us constantly. And of course, Divine Mother, she's always there. She's just waiting. I really encourage all of you, and I'm sure you have been doing it already, I really encourage you to try, have little games with her, experiments, challenges. Divine Mother, you need to do this for me. Are you going to do this for me? Can you please? It's said in with right love and sense of, I have the right to ask you of this. When we develop that relationship, she answers. She does. And she's very much there, right behind our heart, just like Master has said. All we have to do is uncover. Our ego has stood in the way. And the more we break it down and we let her in, she's there. So when we are walking that tightrope, she's actually she's right there holding us. She will not let us fall. She can never. Because she has put us on this road. And she knows that. And she just wants us to become more perfect in our love for her. She's the hound, right? She's there. She's chasing us. She'll never let us go.